was it's not my main topic now. It was 4 years ago or something. I was really having deep dive into Zarathustra, which was Zarathustrians, which was a form that the Persians.
Zoroastrianism, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I found that fascinating. Also Buddhism and also the different forms of Islam. I was also taking a hard look into that. And I see that we have to understand where the problems come from. And I think there's in my opinion, to my observation, there was one religion at one point in history. Okay. And I think after the flood, this is my conclusion, but I can't really explain it now in English. After this flood, which came in different religion and cultures, you have the proof that all the people talking about this big flood, and I think there the people lost this first form of religion, the understanding of the world and what God is and stuff like that. And then you have the man falls into how can you say it? Falls into a state where he doesn't know anymore.
So you're talking about this sort of, what do they call it? The world that existed before the deluge, the pre-diluvian world, and the kind of breakdown in society. I mean, it's been discussed there was a sort of breakdown in language.
Yes,
definitely. This is from sort of Nimrod and no, sorry, I'm gonna get it wrong. From essentially from Babel, the Tower of Babel. And that story.
And I would say that even philosophy is kind of religion in many ways. It's just, religion is, for me, some atheists say it's a form to control people and stuff like that. But for me, it's also a philosophical way to understand the world, And for me, religion or a worldview is the only purpose to understand the world. Logos. It's called logos.
Yeah, logos.
How the world works. Yes, this is the only purpose for a religion or a worldview for me. And I'm also always willing to improve on that, based on new facts and stuff like that. But the things you can't explain, you have to feel, and that is the belief thing comes in, and then you have to speculate, and this is a form of higher being, a spirituality way. You feel this might be right, and then I would describe it. I can't speak very well English, so I have to describe it like that.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, this is it's interesting because I mean, I kind of subscribe to the idea of this pre-diluvian unity. So people were at one point united under a common culture or a common language, something that tied them together. So I mean, are we not moving away from unity by forming sort of nation states and sort of further separating ourselves with more complex sort of variations of language and religion and that sort of thing? Do you not see it as a I mean, is this not the sort of identity politics that's caused big issues throughout, Western Europe the last couple hundred years? One kingdom against another, and whether that kingdom subscribes to the I don't know, the sort of the in vogue form of Christianity or whatever it is. I mean, pagans, you've kind of got a bit of an uphill struggle in sort of.
Oh yeah.
You're fighting all of the Abrahamic religions, which are well established, with nation states and nuclear weapons. I'm not sure if there's a pagan country that's managed. An openly pagan society that's achieved that sort of that benchmark. But I mean, do you think that we are kind of regressing to a mean? Do you think we're moving back towards what we were, and is paganism the kind of the answer to that? Because I mean, religion
For
is.
me, if, for example, if you have Michael Jones, maybe you know him.
I've not heard of him actually. No.
He has a big crowd of Christians. He's also in a kind of spheres from Nick Fuentes.
I've heard of Nick Fuentes. Yes.
Yes, yes. So in a kind of sphere, but he described him. He's not, at least from what he says, he's not interested in race. I don't know if he really is not, and just wants sees other problems as more imminent. For example, the degeneration of all humankind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he puts that first and wants to unite all people against this degenerate, satanic. You can call it satanic. Yeah, time in history. I think this is his goal, so I'm not against it. But as I understand, he described Christianity as logos, and he thinks that Jesus Christ is the truth. So what he really says is that Christianity is all about truth, and as long as it's about that, I'm completely okay with that. So he's also not just reading the Bible, but also other books, and then you can always evolve and become closer to God. The more you understand the world God creates, the closer you come to God. And as long as people are this, I would describe myself also as a Christian. If Christ is all about the truth, I'm a truth seeker. And I just
Christ is about the truth. But
yes,
was
he
Christ
said.
about ethnicity though?
The Old Testament is about ethnicity very strongly. I think we had a quick chat in that, the tribes and stuff like that.
But then it changes in the New Testament.
Yes, it changed a bit in the New Testament. I have to read it again. I read it before I was woke to the waste question. I have to read it again, but I have so many books here.
That's a problem, because you'd struggle in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and even John, to find any form of ethno-nationalist thing. So I can understand the whole ethno-nationalism from a political point of view. But when you start bringing in Christianity and religion, it's like, okay, where in that scripture does it talk about ethno-nationalism? Then there's a problem.
Yeah, this would be a problem, because if, for example, Michael E. Jones says everyone is equal, just like the liberal says every human is the same and stuff like that, it's denying truth. This would be against my sort of worldview. You can call it. I only call me pagan because I look at nature to understand the world. First and foremost. This is where I come from. I look, for example, this was a funny story, maybe. I think a few months ago, the new Lion King comes in cinema, the animated version of the Lion King, and I watched it again, this movie, because I was fascinating as a kid watching it, and now I watch it with new eyes, and every animal has their place. They talk about that. The lion has a specific kind of living. And for example, I think the Lion King told Simba in one thing, we kill the other animals, and this is not right, and stuff like that. And then he explains him why it is right, because it's logos. You eat the animal, you die, you become plants, and then the animal you eat before eats you. for example. Yeah, it's very a simple,
The cycle of life. Yeah.
simple explanation.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the circle of life.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and also every animal has their territory. This is also very important. The hyenas has their territory and stuff like that. And this is also what I see in nation building of humans. It's a territory where they have power on, and they respect the other territory. Yeah. And yeah, I think everyone that watches it and enjoys that has to be some kind of has
But
to have a nationalist view.
But
I
there's
think
a lot of inconsistency in that whole thing because the animals, they don't stick to a particular territory. The lions do what the hell they want. They go in
yes,
They
territory.
move with the seasons. Yeah.
yeah,
typically,
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and what happens if the watering hole is in a territory that is filled with hyenas? The other animals will still go there anyway because they need to drink water. So in
yes,
real life, you look at this thing about nationhoods. We all know about imperialism and empires. Nobody stayed in their own so-called territory. They went out to conquer other people, rape or commit genocide. So
yes,
it's with human beings. Human beings are an anomaly. They don't stick to one thing. They don't behave like insects, like bees in a hive or soldier ants in their collective. They have a way of working. Each person is designated a role. Human beings can just chop and change their diet, change their way of thinking. It doesn't.
yes,
I don't see how it works with the animals and the jungle.
yes.
Human beings.
We are the only animal with a free will to an extent. But if we go against the logos, how the world works, it has consequences sooner or later. Exactly as the lions. If they expand their territory too much, which is not based on their power and their strength, they also will diminish. They will lose territory again because you have, for example, you have 20 lions or something, yeah, and you expand your territory, so 2 lions can only go that place, but then you have 20 hyenas, you are up against, then the hyenas are strong enough to kill the lions, and then you are back on your territory, so it's always a power struggle, how much you can expand. And I think in human, of course, for example, the Europeans could at one point in history wipe up the whole world and take it over with their atomic bombs or something. We could, we haven't. But for example, in the past, of course, you have hunger crisis, you have sort of diseases and stuff like that, and to you basically you have how can I describe it? Now we have the technology. One can have a good life. We don't have to expand based on because I don't know, we are hungry or we want even to have more wealth or something. We don't have to do that. We have machines. We can have a good life. We don't have to do that anymore. And this is the only thing I see positive about the whole technology. Okay, we don't have to fight for wealth or something. We can just use our brain power to make the territory we in more productive. For example, yeah.
Of ethno-nationalism, will it stick within Germany?
Yes.
Sure.
Or let me say it like this: if, for example, because I'm an ethno-nationalist, I could also say, okay, why is Germany divided from Austria, for example? We are the same people, basically, or divided to Netherlands or Belgium. We are the same people, ethnically speaking. We are so similar. We could have a super state of Germanic people, for example. We also have the Bavarians that already are in Germany. You know, if the people decide to form a larger state, it's okay for me, as long as the Bavarians still have their Bavarian culture, the Saxon have their culture, and so on. You know, I have no problem with that, but I wouldn't expand to Poland or some other states.
But you're basing what you're doing on a social construct. Because if we
No.
go back in time, the
Yes.
Saxons, were they always there? They migrated from somewhere into the region we call Saxon.
Yes.
So you're basically going to base your ethno-nationalism on what the current dynamic is, and say you'll have it like that for all time if you can. So Saxons here, barbarians over there, and within these borders of Germany, this is what we will have. And we will trade with other people. We will prop up Christianity, and we will reduce the population of the non-Germans. So you have more Germans, which is okay. That's what you want to do, because you're doing it out of fear that your culture or your race is being replaced. That's it. That's where it's coming to.
Exactly.
You feel you're being replaced.
Yeah. I wouldn't, for example, I wouldn't for the sake of peace, I wouldn't go as a European and reconquer Turkey, for example, because at one point we have to say, okay, one point in time, you know, we have to say, okay, this is our territories. We hadn't had this human rights before. It was basically a free for all. Wars always happened, and then we have this new kind of thinking, you know, that the nation state thinking, national sovereignty, I don't know how to say it in English. Sovereignty.
Sovereignty, yeah.
Yes, yes. It's a beautiful. I think it's a beautiful way to think, and just let us live with that. Yeah.
How will you deal with the drop in Christianity in Germany? More Germans becoming atheists. Would you try and implement policies to make them remain Christian?
No, I wouldn't. I think I don't know if you understand that. Maybe you do. I see it in blacks too. You are black?
Yes.
Yeah. If you decide to take a look into race and culture, you automatically are thinking about spirituality. I think it's a natural process. If you become aware of race and history and stuff like that, that you are becoming more spiritual. Also in philosophy, you have a lot of spirituality in it. If you read Nietzsche or something, it's almost like a religion, you know? It's an understanding of the world. And yeah, I think there's no thing I would say Christianity is now better than paganism or something. It will, over time, it will solve out perfectly on their own. If people are aware of race and want to look who they are, it become naturally, I would say.
I see. So the desire to protect your culture, your race will inevitably
ultimately,
spirituality.
Yes.
That spirituality for you will be Christianity because of its history in Germany with the culture.
It doesn't have to be. I think there is the German spirit, also the European spirit, is always thriving for something higher. And maybe Christianity in one time in history, maybe also today, if we go back to traditional Christianity, it has positive value, but only as long as we are in that state of mind. You know, it doesn't have to be for that forever. It's a process. If we found something better, we can improve, I think.
Do you think your ethno-nationalist beliefs are a reaction to what Angela Merkel did with the immigration in your country? or were you always an ethno-nationalist?
No, I wasn't. I was I would say 20 till I was 20. I was very non-political, and then there was an event. I was in the German army, and someone made me aware of the mass weapon of mass destruction, that it was all based on a lie. There was in the Middle East and stuff like that. And this was the first time I read some books on specific topics, and later with it came the internet, and I was looking at alternative media. I was shifting left to that point, but the leftist worldview was more like anti-imperialism to that day. Most of the SJWs never appeared to that day on the internet. They hadn't had any channels. It was the area of truth. They all call themselves truthers. There was a whole variety of people. They were talking also about religion, about many new ages was within them. Then there was these, especially a big focus was on the money system. And yeah, it was more leftist, I would say, leftist. And then over time, I graduated to ethno-nationalism. But also, I have still many what normally you would call leftist worldviews, anti-imperialism, critic. Well, also some right-wing people, as you know, would describe it. Right-wing people has anti-money. Anti-capitalist thinking. The fascists were also against the banking system, for example. They had this thought also, but you would describe it now as leftist worldviews for the most part. Yeah.
Okay, so that was what. Okay, so to get this ethno-nationalist German state, what will you do to the non-Germans in Germany?
Yes, there could be politic-wise. Yes. First, I would. It's necessary to raise awareness into Germans who they really are, and Europeans who they really are. They completely lost it. They have no idea of their history, no idea of their culture anymore. There's nothing left. Today, you can say, you can ask a German what is